Dude, first off, can I just say, look at this guy, dude. This guy looks, I'm sorry. I don't want to be mean to Ken Martin, you know, whatever. I know he's just like a Minnesota small town guy. But dude, he looks like a fucking alien, bro. He's like, right? Dude, like, what is up with the smile, bro? You know, he is just like, well, you know what's interesting is you have Favreau looks like a tennis player, right? He does. Look at him. Doesn't he look like a tennis player? We have like the tennis pro, right? Talking to fucking Mr. Rogers, like hillbilly cousin, dude. Dude, it is like, what the fuck is going on, bro? It is like John McEnroe's cousin versus Mr. Rogers, like illegitimate fucking fetal alcohol syndrome love child. Dude, yo, hey, yeah, no, I'm looking at the head of the DNC and I'm thinking, yo, can I get a ticket out of the Democratic Party? Dude, you got another party? Is there somewhere else I can go? Because I'm looking at homie and I'm thinking, I'm not sure what my chances are, survival boss. All right, get back to me.
Quick bit of context for listeners. This all came about because you expressed some frustration about criticism of the DNC coming from our direction. So I appreciate you coming on to talk about it directly. I'll just say up front, we share the goal of making sure Democrats win everywhere, especially the White House in 2028. I also very much understand you've got one of the hardest jobs in politics that you took at an especially tough time for the party. But I do want to press you on some specific things because I think the stakes are too high not to. Does that sound fair?
Sounds great, John. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I want to start with the 2024 autopsy, which you call an after-action review. When you won the chairmanship in February of 25, you criticized the DNC's refusal to release their 2016 autopsy as exactly what not to do. You said, quote, was there any utility in doing that? And then promised your 2024 autopsy would be different. Your exact quote was, of course it will be released. Why did you change your mind on that?
Well, look, I mean, what I said all along, even when I ran for this position, is that we were going to focus on the things that will help us win the upcoming election, right? Making sure that we learn the right lessons that could help inform our victories. And that's what we've done. We said this when we sent out the press release back in November saying we weren't going to release the report. We were going to actually keep our focus on those lessons. And we released those lessons. We continue to do that. And it's important for me, instead of navel-gazing and looking backwards and trying to relitigate 2024, I don't know about you, John, but I don't have a time machine. I don't think you do. No one does, so we can't change what happened in 24. The only thing we can do is actually change what happens in the future, including the 26 election cycle, 28 and beyond. That means we do need to learn the lessons.
But on this show in August, you told me this about releasing the review, quote, we have to do it to give people who invested so much time, energy, and money a sense of what happened and why we lost.
Correct.
Especially why we lost. So what changed between August and December? I understand there are lessons, but those are not the full report. Why not release the full report? What's in the report that you wouldn't want
to
publicize?
There's no smoking gun in the report. And I know that's what everyone's so eager to learn. The smoking gun. Guess what, John?
But if there's no smoking gun, why wouldn't you just release it then?
Because we want to keep the focus on the lessons. Because what ends up happening here is that people, of course, want to weaponize the report in a way to look backwards, to point fingers, place blame in a way that actually doesn't keep us focused on the upcoming election. But instead, the navel-gazing of focusing backwards actually takes us backwards. We're 189 days from this election, John. What we don't need to be focused on is actually relitigating 2024. What we need to do is learn the lessons of 24 and the years preceding that can help us win this upcoming election.
All right, so I have not watched this. So is Ken going to share us some of the lessons? Has anybody shared the lessons with us? Because he said, we got to learn the lessons. Okay, well, what are the lessons? You know, obviously, if we look at 2024, one of the most glaring things is like 4 million people that voted in 2020 didn't show up. And obviously there are some, pretty significant reasons for that. And I would like an acknowledgement about that on some way, shape, and form. Like, without it being released, the assumption will be made by a significant faction of the Democratic Party that this is related to Gaza and AIPAC, and that the people that aren't releasing it are Zionists. That is the assumption that's going to be made, right? It's like if they don't counter that assumption, a huge portion of people are just going to dig their heels in, and that's going to further entrench that Gaza scenario in the fabric of like our internal rift.
I'm just trying to figure out, because it certainly doesn't seem like anyone's looking for one single silver bullet, because it's a 200-page report. So I feel like on a 200-page report, there's a lot of lessons for everyone to take. And if you're going to operationalize it, then I think the question is, like, are you operationalizing it on behalf of people who didn't actually get to see the report? So, like, do they know what they're agreeing to when they operationalize lessons from the report if they haven't been able to read the report?
John, you're proving the point.
What's the point?
I mean,
what point?
Is the obsession on the report without actually focusing in on the lessons. People believe there's some sort of magic silver bullet in there that's going to solve all of our ills.
Dude, he keeps saying the same shit. Dude, dude, please, John, just ask him. Okay, Ken, give me the lessons. I want you to name all of the lessons from this report right now. What are they? Quit giving me, right? I mean, this is the third time he said the silver bullet, the silver bullet. What are the lessons? Give us the lessons there, Ken.
Democratic Party. There's not.
Yeah.
And I understand.
I don't think there's going to be a magic silver bullet, though. Who thinks that? No one thinks it's good. No one thinks there's a magic silver bullet. It's a 200-page report. You interviewed people in 50 states. You spent a lot of donor money on it. I think people are probably wondering, like,
we didn't spend a lot of donor money on that, and that's just inaccurate.
You spent a couple $100,000 on it, right?
No, we did not.
It was a free report.
We did not spend a couple $100,000 on that. The person and people who were involved in it were not paid to do this work. And so I would just say that's inaccurate, John. The reality is we're not hiding the ball on this. We have been sharing those things out. Happy to get you over, what we have been sharing out, John. The reality is that there's no smoking gun here. And as much as people would like to keep focusing in on those pieces, what they're ignoring is that we're sharing out the lessons. We have been incorporating those, and we have actually been putting those lessons.
Dude, how many times has he said smoking gun already, bro? Dude, like... It is fucking
into action, which I'm most proud of. Look, we're 189 days.
Hold on. Yo, yeah. Yo, what's up? Political punk here. Hey, if this motherfucker says smoking gun one more time, I'm gonna climb through the fucking TV set. I am going to rattle his fucking Mr. Rogers brain, dude. Dude, I'm gonna scramble that shit. Dude, no more. I am going to rattle his brain, dude. Like, are you ready? It's gonna be like Scott Jennings in a fucking batting cage is what it's gonna be in about 5 minutes, dude. Dude, right? One more time. Just say smoking gun one more fucking time, Ken Martin. Right? One more. I dare you to say smoking gun. One more, dude. I will get in my car tonight and I will drive straight to in Minnesota, bro. Oh shit, dude. It's brought to you by Act Blue. Dude, they're sponsored by Act Blue. See, dude, it's like it is like crazy. I mean, it's crazy because you realize that like the conflict of interest happening here with the Favreau brothers and 𝗙cie𝗶𝗹𝗀, how they're interviewing the head of the DNC on a podcast that is sponsored by the fundraising arm of the DNC. So if you're wondering why Jon Favreau is not any real pointed, like, zeroing in questions, that's it. Because this whole podcast is sponsored. It's like a paid advertisement to like, oh, we got heated with Ken Martin. And like, dude, you got heated play acting with Ken Martin. And again, all of the guys in, Favreau and his buddies and 𝗣𝗢𝗟 and all these 𝗙𝚻𝗹𝗎𝗪𝐴 guys and all their friends and all of Ken Martin and all of his friends, all of them are unaffected. No matter how long the war goes on in Iran, no matter what happens, all of these guys are in a social class that they are immune to, even if J.D. Vance wins and we have a technocrat fascism, all of these guys are going to be living it up. They're in the Hunger Games class. And so it's sponsored by Act Blue. Like Favreau, dude, that's fucking as weak as Ken Martin. Like, I can't tell which one of these guys I find more offensive, Ken Martin or fucking Favreau. Because at least Ken Martin, as objectionable as he is building state infrastructure, right? And Favreau is like, I'm really doing this hardcore journalism, not sponsored by Act Blue, right? I'm doing a DNC interview sponsored by the DNC. Like, bro, what the fuck, dude? I mean, this is part of our problem. People under 30, whether they are independent or leftist or whatever, they care about 𝗡PAC, guys. I think like 30% of the Democratic Party cares about 𝗡PAC. And 30% is significant. If 30% of our party doesn't show up, we lose. You know what I mean? So like we have to at least be able to have the conversations about it. Like even if 70% of our party doesn't care about 𝗡PAC, 30% does. So we have to be able to have a conversation with the 30% that does. And we need to at least be straight with them so they don't feel like they're being lied to and being told something that's not really happening, because it's not even so much about 𝗡PAC at this point. It's about trust. It's about the 30% of the party that does worry about 𝗡PAC feel like there's been a breach of trust. Some black voters feel like there's been a breach of trust. Some women voters feel like there's been a breach of trust. People that want health care feel like there's been a breach of trust. I mean, there's a lot of different groups that feel like there's been a breach of trust, and we have to be willing to address it. All the people that don't care about 𝗡PAC are fine, but the people that do care about 𝗡PAC, like, we need them too. We can't win without them. And so that's the problem. We need the 70% and we need the 30%. And so, like, we at least have to be able to have conversations about that. And that's what's hard, is like for me, guys, for me that like 𝗡PAC is not my number one issue. So I don't care if there's a couple of candidates in the Democratic Party taking 𝗡PAC money. That's not a complete deal breaker for me. However, I do know that in order to not lose the 30% of the people who do care about that, we at least have to like hear them out and tell them what's going on with our relationship with 𝗡PAC. And we have to be able to have an open conversation so they don't feel like they're being told that they're not taking 𝗡PAC money while it's coming in the back door. Okay? And I think that's reasonable. I think being able to have a conversation with all of our different voter groups is really important if we want to unite people. We can't have the black people feel like we're turning on them and the Hispanic people feel like we're turning on them and the people who don't like 𝗡PAC feel like we're turning on them. And then at the end of all that, we tell them, oh, I'm sorry you feel like we're not listening to you and we're not giving you straight answers, but please vote for us too. Like, we have to at least be able to talk about it, right? And that bothers me. Like, why can't we have the fucking conversation? Why does everybody know that Gaza had some impact on that election? But again, that whole interview was Ken Martin being evasive and saying, well, we already did release it. And it was Jon Favreau being paid by Act Blue to interview Ken Martin and not ask any of the hard questions. And like, guys, you know me, okay? You know that I have been very adamant about the vote blue no matter who, defeat the fascists, and like whoever wins the primary, we back, which means if I have issues with Graham Platner and he wins the primary and I'm a main voter, I'm voting for him. I'm supporting him because he won the primary. And you know that I stand for whoever wins that fucking primary, we're in. And that's what we want to ask of the people in our party. But I do think it's fair that if we're going to request that everybody show up and do what they need to do to help the party win, then the party should be open to answering everybody's questions and providing the transparency that everybody, right? Like, if we're going to ask the leftists to vote for Gavin Newsom, we got to answer their questions about AIPAC, you know? And I'm not saying Gavin Newsom's going to win, but we know there's leftists at AIPAC and Gavin Newsom and whatever. They have these issues. So my thing is I say leftists, we need you to vote for the primary winner, even if it's Gavin Newsom. And then if they say, okay, but you got to tell us what's going on with AIPAC and Gaza and what's our core issue. And then we got to be able to respond to that too. It should be a two-way street. Like, I believe that they should be required to show up and participate in the party, but then we got to be able to have the hard conversations, man, you know? And like, and that's the thing. I think if we're not going to be willing to have the hard conversations and address their issues, then they're not going to want to show up and toe the party line with us and vote for the primary winner. And that's the thing that we got to heal. We got to figure out how to heal that rift, you know? And I think it's healable because I think it's reasonable as a party to say, yeah, we need to stick together and support the primary winners. But it's also reasonable where if they say, well, okay, who of those primary winners is actually getting AIPAC money and why? And we should be able to have that conversation honestly and say, okay, this person is getting AIPAC money in Ohio because we need it, because we're outflanked, and because most of Ohio is Israel supporters anyway, right? That kind of transparency would move mountains, okay? Because at least you would know they're being honest with us. They're not trying to buffalo us. They're not trying to lie to us to make us feel better. They're not telling us something that we sort of feel maybe isn't true, you know? And I think that type of honesty, like that's the kind of honesty I have with my girlfriend and with my son. And it's that foundational honesty, which means when we call each other out, we know that it's reasonable because we're so honest with each other. We know that they're being truthful and they're not just saying something to manipulate us. And so I think that is a reasonable ask of the party. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.